When you move into a peaceful suburban neighborhood, you expect a certain level of quiet and respect for personal space, right? Well, that was my assumption, until Karen, the HOA's unofficial enforcer, decided to take a little more than she was entitled to. And when she started stealing power from my home to charge her Tesla, that's when I knew I had to do something. It started innocently enough. I noticed her Tesla parked in front of my house more than usual. And one morning, I saw the charging cable snaked around the corner of my driveway, plugged into my electrical outlet. No asking, no permission. Just Karen, acting like she had the right to use my power whenever she pleased. At first, I thought it might have been a mistake. Maybe she didn't realize the cable was plugged into my outlet. But the next day, I caught her again. This time, I confronted her. "Karen, are you charging your car with my electricity?" She flashed me a sweet fake smile and said, "Oh, I didn't think it would be a problem. I'm just charging my car for a few hours. You don't mind, do you?" I was furious, but I kept my cool. "Karen, it's my electricity, and you need to ask before using it." She just rolled her eyes and waved it off, as if my property and my power meant nothing. That's when I knew. This wasn't a small issue anymore. It was time to teach her a lesson. At first, I gave Karen the benefit of the doubt. After all, everyone in the neighborhood was supposed to get along. We all lived under the HOA's watchful eye. It wasn't unusual for neighbors to help each other out. I didn't want to make a fuss over something as petty as charging her car. But after the second time I caught her, I realized something more was going on. I saw her regularly sneaking around the side of my house, plugging her car in while I was at work. The nerve of this woman. She was exploiting my goodwill and stealing my power like it was nothing. I began paying closer attention. It wasn't just about the car. It was about her sense of entitlement. Karen had always been a little overbearing, one of those self-appointed HOA presidents who loved to throw around her power over the neighborhood. Grass heights, mailbox colors, any minor infractions she could find. It didn't help that her car was always parked in front of my house, taking up space on the street. And I wasn't alone in feeling annoyed by her. Several neighbors were tired of Karen doing whatever she wanted, with no real consequences. Whether it was crossing boundaries with her demands, or in this case, stealing my electricity. Finally, after the third time I caught her, I was done being polite. I texted her, asking her to stop using my power without permission. Her response? "You're overreacting. It's just a few hours." That was it. I wasn't just going to let her walk all over me anymore. It was time to get creative. The next day, I came home to find her charging again. This time with the cable stretched across the sidewalk, taking up the entire path in front of my house. She was testing my patience. I knew I had to make a move, but I didn't want to take the obvious route of simply cutting off her access. No. I wanted to make her feel the consequences of what she was doing, something that would get her attention and make her think twice before ever trying this again. I started researching. I wanted to stop Karen, but I also needed to stay within the lines of the law. I couldn't just call the police over a neighbor's minor infringement, and I didn't want to escalate it with the HOA. She already had too much influence there. But I had something she didn't expect. My knowledge of electrical systems. I discovered that charging a Tesla off a regular home outlet wasn't efficient or safe. The longer she left it plugged in, the more the current would accumulate. And then I found out how I could create a controlled power surge. Just enough to mess with her charging system without causing lasting damage to my own system. It took a few days, but I figured out how to wire it up. I installed a small device inside the box that regulated the electrical flow to my outlet. Every time Karen plugged in, the device would kick in and generate a small, controlled surge. The goal wasn't to cause a fire, but to fry her car's battery, rendering her Tesla useless and teaching her a valuable lesson about stealing power. That afternoon, I watched from my window as Karen, in her usual oblivious manner, plugged her car in. I felt a small sense of satisfaction. She wouldn't know what hit her. The next few hours felt like an eternity. I watched as Karen went inside, completely unaware of the trap I'd set. By the time I went to bed, I knew the surge would have done its work. The next morning, I went about my usual routine, checking emails, sipping coffee, but keeping an eye on her car. Then I saw it. Her Tesla wasn't parked where it usually was. It was still plugged in, but it wasn't moving. I casually walked outside, pretending to admire my garden, and made my way over to the car. There she was, standing in the driveway, hands on her hips, staring at the Tesla's charging port like it had betrayed her. She tried starting her car, but it didn't budge. The surge had fried her battery. I had to fight back laughter as I watched her scramble. She had no idea what had happened. Her precious Tesla was done for, and she couldn't fix it herself. She'd have to take it to a shop, and no one would figure out what was wrong right away. Karma had finally caught up with her. Sure enough, later that day, Karen came storming over to my front door. "Your outlet is broken," she said, her voice dripping with irritation. "I tried to charge my car, and now it's dead. You're going to fix this, or I'll get the HOA involved." I didn't let her finish. "Karen, I didn't break your car. Your own actions caused this. You used my electricity without permission. Maybe now you'll understand why stealing is a bad idea." She was stunned, silent for a moment, but then she came back with an even angrier statement. "You can't do this to me. I'll make sure the HOA gets involved." But there was no turning back now. I had the proof. Photos of the charging cable plugged into my outlet, video footage of Karen's car and charging setup, even the receipts showing my electricity usage from the previous day, just to show how much power she'd stolen. I wasn't done yet. That night, I filed a detailed complaint with the HOA, attaching all the evidence. I asked them to reinforce community rules on using other people's property without permission. A few days later, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Karen wasn't just reprimanded, she was forced to apologize for violating community guidelines. The HOA imposed a fine on her for abuse of power. The best part? The community rallied behind me. Neighbors who had been too intimidated by Karen's reputation came forward to support me. The HOA officially removed Karen from her unofficial enforcer role, and the whole situation was diffused. As for me, I still have my pool. I still have my Tesla charging outlet. But now I can enjoy my space without worrying that someone like Karen will take advantage of it again. And Karen? She had to fork out thousands for a new Tesla battery. Karma, I guess, has a way of catching up with people who think they can take whatever they want. If you've ever dealt with someone like Karen, who thought they could take advantage of you, drop a karma in the comments below. Let me know your story.